right, everyone, welcome to another episode of The Urban Gardener. I hope everybody's been having a really wonderful winter. We've been doing really well here. We're working on a few things, getting to some things going. And unfortunately, we haven't been filming too much here at home at the Urban Gardens. But we did get a chance to travel out up north a couple of times to meet up with our friend Mark Boucher Colbert. Put an iCard above right now to an episode we did on seed catalogs and talking about our favorite seed catalogs and what they have to offer for you. Still time to buy some seeds, still time to get some of those things going too, so check that one out. And after that, we were able to travel up north to Seattle and meet back up again with Mark and talk about the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival. The 2018 Northwest Flower and Garden Festival was really exceptional. It was really fun for a first time, but to have the chance to be able to meet up with Mark, who has experience and has been there before and kind of knew what it was all about, was really, really helpful. Was able to get and take in a lot of really, really great things at this festival. It was really awesome. So I'll put an iCard above for that episode up there, and I hope you get a chance to check that one out too. So it's really great to be able to also be able to get out of town and go see some things and get excited about gardening and getting this season going. And the first day of spring marks the 1-year anniversary of TUG, the Urban Gardener. And it's going to be really exciting to celebrate that with all of you guys who have come to join with me on this garden adventure. And if you haven't had a chance to subscribe, hit the subscribe button down below right now. Follow along with what we got going on here and what we got coming up for this spring and summer. Going into fall, we're going to grow a lot of really great things. I've got a lot of really, really good plans for the Urban Garden this year. So I hope you all get a chance to follow along with me there. We're going to be doing plenty of things here at home, out at the community gardens that we have as well. And we're also going to be able to hit the road and go check out some more different garden features and be able to talk with some different gardeners and do some different things as well. I hope you all follow along with me on that garden adventure here on the Urban Gardener. Now, I suppose that you're all wondering what I got going on in the background there. And that's what we're going to talk about here in just a minute, is we're going to talk about my light station that we got to get some of our seedlings started this year. Plus one other thing, if you're going to get started in your gardens and you're going to get started with seedlings and get started doing that sort of stuff, you gotta get some soil started. So what we're going to do now is we're going to spend a minute or two and we're going to talk about how I put together my seed starting mix for our peppers and tomatoes and different seedlings. We'll talk about what we do here in the Urban Gardens to put together the right soil mixture for our seedlings. So to start the process off for our seed starting mixture, we got to get a base for it. And one of the main bases in a lot of seed starting mixtures you'll find out there on the market, your Home Depot and different department stores, your garden centers, and a lot of the pre-mixed seed starting mix is peat moss. And a lot of people use peat moss. I don't use peat moss. I got certain reasons. I go over them just a little bit more in that previous episode 2. So for the base of our seed starting mixture, we're going to utilize coconut coir. Now, coconut coir is basically coconut fibers left over from the processing of coconuts. They compress them into these bricks. You can get these bricks in many different sizes. They come small, medium, large. We're utilizing a 11-pound compressed brick of coconut coir. And one of the things that we're going to have to do with that is we're going to have to soak it in water so that it expands out and makes a really, really nice mixture, a moist mixture that we'll be able to use as the base of our soil. So to do that, what we'll do is we'll take this tub here, put our coconut coir right inside. So what we'll need now to soak our coconut coir brick in this tub is a large amount of water. What I have here is one of my 5-gallon buckets. And what I do is I usually prepare about 2 of these a day or 2 ahead of time. And what I do is I fill them up and I put them aside so that I can utilize them for feeding my plants indoors here. The reason I do that is because this water is city water, and city water contains a lot of chlorines and chloramines, and what we want to do is we want to prepare ahead enough time so that this water can sit out and those sort of chemicals can evaporate out basically from there. And then that'll allow for us to be using a cleaner water to allow for microbes and different things to be growing inside of our soil. We want to be growing an organic soil, so it's very important to not be flushing out a lot of that living life that's inside of your soil with some chlorinated water from your city. So one of the things also you do too is get one of those filters that you can get, and I'll put a link down below for filters that you could get for your hoses that you can use outdoors. We'll go over more of that too as we go outdoors here in the season and talk about watering our plants outdoors as well and trying to avoid those chlorines from our city water. Okay, so we've got a bunch of water already prepared here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to dump it in. So all right, now we've got it bathing in a bunch of water right now, and it's soaking it up. It's going to take a little while for this brick to be able to soak up the amount of water it needs to fluff out and be the type of base that we're looking for. So what we'll do is we'll just let this kind of sit in here for a little bit, let it soak up some of it. I'll kind of break it apart a little bit along the process. So we'll let it sit here and soak for a little bit, and then in a short while we'll get back and we'll add the other ingredients that we're going to need for our seed starting mixture. So what we're going to do now is we're going to introduce this cocoa coir, this base that we have here for our seed starting mix, to some other ingredients to finish it off. So next up, what we're going to do is we're going to add those ingredients to our seed base, the cocoa coir. And what we have here is 3 parts cocoa coir. So what we need now is something to put into our seed starting base to help retain some of the water that we're going to be feeding our seedlings. Now there's a couple of different things that you could utilize to do that. One of them is perlite. Perlite is basically that white rock that you find at your garden centers that you can buy. It's very inexpensive, and it's usually one of the more go-to things to use for this situation. You see it a lot in some of the soil mixtures that you'll get in bags and whatnot at the garden centers. But for us, what we're going to utilize is vermiculite. Now, vermiculite is a clay that's been basically baked up until it cracks and whatnot, and creates all of these little areas within the vermiculite itself that water can. That's why it's really good for holding on to some water for your soil. So we'll be using vermiculite for our soil, so we'll just need 1 part vermiculite. All right, so what we'll do is we'll add about 1 part vermiculite into our mixture. All right, we've got the 1 part vermiculite put into our soil base, and then the one last thing that we're going to add to our mixture is worm castings. Worm castings, or worm manure, or worm poop basically, is also called vermicompost. Is a great fertilizer for your garden. It's also really good fertilizer to get your initial seed starting mixture, give it a good fertilization to get those young plants started off really well. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 1 part worm castings. All right, so let's add some worm castings to that. So about 1 part. You could also put more or less, a little bit of this or that if you want, you know. Really just make a really nice seed starting mix. Just mix everything all together. So all right, that's nice and simple. Just 3 ingredients there: cocoa coir, vermiculite, and worm castings. And like I said, you can put them in different amounts if you like, whatever you prefer yourself. You could go a little lighter on vermiculite, a little heavier on worm castings if you like. But what we have now is a really great seed starting mixture. So with this soil, we're going to be able to get started planting out our seeds real soon. We're going to have that coming up here in an upcoming episode as we get our 2018 pepper collection started. But for now, let's go take a look at that seed starting light station that we're going to be growing some of these really cool little seedlings in. So now it's time to talk about our seed starting station. Now we've had this thing here for I've been using it now for about 2 years. I showed it a little bit in an episode last year as we were getting our seedlings started last year. I've made a couple of modifications to it. It's pretty simple, just basically some PVC pipes here and some shop lights. Talk about the structure of this seed starting station that we have here. It's basically a Schedule 40 Charlotte pipe, 1 inch, that we've jointed together with different types of joints. Curves here to get the top cross bar. And as you can see here, I do have these bars here coming across to hold up each of our lights coming across the top there. And that can be utilized as a shelf in order to hold different types of things above the light setup, or eventually we can get some lights coming down from the ceiling and maybe even grow some other things on top there as well. It's all attached here with different PVC joints. So we get curved joints to attach them across the length there, utilizing these joints here that go in 3 different directions. We're utilizing them 2 different ways here in order to put the station together to hold the top section of lights. As you go down, you see that we using the same type of thing coming across to hold a center in order to give it some support. Same thing down here. We've got them facing upwards, the 3 ways, in order to give support like that. And then here we're using a 4-way. And I did this in order to kind of spur out a couple of spurs there on the bottom to help give it some real good support across all 4 sides there. So then we also have our lights set up here. These are just T12 4-foot shop light setups that we have hooked up here, utilizing these eye bolts here with a S hook and some chain hooked to the light so that we can lower our lights down and bring them up. Now in the light fixtures themselves, we're utilizing, I think these are just a Philips 40 watt 6500K 4-foot bulbs. I think it'll run around 2400 lumens, and you could certainly get a higher wattage, higher lumen output. But for the last couple of years, I've found that these have worked very well for our seedlings. And of course, what we'll do is we'll bring them down really low, right up above our seedlings as we get them started. So below the table, we have the same setup as well. We don't have a second one hooked up, but there's a space for a second one here as well. And eventually here, I think in the next month or so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go purchase a couple of these LED shop light setups. And we're going to test those out and see how well those will work out too. So we'll put a couple of those in, and then we'll eventually look to see if we can't put in a LED setup for the rest of the whole light station as we get into next season. All right, and down here you can see that we have this just basic timer system here so that we can turn our light station on and off in different intervals and whatnot as we're growing our seedlings along. We can also set up a second one in order to do a different timing system for below and above if we want. But for the most part, I think we'll be running on the same light time for most of our seeds as we're getting them started. So there you go. We got ourselves a really cool seed starting station here. Like I said, it's just basic. It's PVC pipes. We've got a table here, and we've attached shop lights to them. And they're pretty basic, inexpensive shop lights and light fixtures that you could possibly get yourself and get something set up like this for yourself at home. It does take up a little bit of space, so you'll need to figure out what you would do with that. And you know, there are a bunch of other different choices or ideas for different types of shelving and different things like that that you could do to set up something very similar with lights. And as I said, we're going to move on here to doing some LEDs here in the lower part and see how that works out for this season. And then maybe next season, maybe transfer everything else over to LEDs as well. And as you saw, got ourselves our soil all mixed up so we can get our seeds started. And that's something we're going to be doing here in the very next episode. We're going to get ourselves started with the 2018 pepper seeds. So we'll go through and do that, and we'll get them planted out and get our pepper collection started for this next year, which is going to be really fun. I'm really getting excited about this upcoming season. We got a lot of things going on. I want to thank you all so much for coming along with me on this episode of The Urban Gardener and checking out our seed starting station and getting a good review of the soil mixture that we're going to be using as we get our seeds started coming up here in new episodes. Please give this episode a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything at all, hit me up in the comment section below. I love hearing from you guys. And one other thing. Hit the subscribe button. Follow along with us on this garden adventure as we get going along with newer and newer episodes coming up. I'll see you then. It's basically just some PVC pipes here and some shop vacs. Some shop vacs? Did I really? Thank you so much for coming along. Man, I want to thank you so much. I want to thank you all so much for following. I want to thank you all so much for. I want to thank you all so much for. I want to thank you all so much for. So again, I'd like to thank you so much for, and I really want to thank you all so much for, I'd like to really, thank you all so much for following along with me. Thank you all so much for following along with me. Thank you all so much. I want to thank you all so much. All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of The Urban Gardener. I hope everybody's winter has been going well.